The Joy Perspective, the podcast where I share life's challenges, things I've learned through years of personal development, and help others shift their perspective and find their joy. I'm Lauren Valdez, and together we'll dive into how changing the way we think can unlock possibilities, spark creativity, and transform the everyday. Let's dive in. Welcome to The Joy Perspective. I'm Lauren Valdez, and today we're going to have an honest conversation about burnout and how to find your way back to harmony within your life. I don't like to say balance within our life, but really it's finding harmony with all the things that we juggle. I'm going to go ahead and share my own personal story of burnout and also how reconnecting with what truly matters can help bring healing to your life. I feel like this idea of burnout has been all over social media or all over people's conversations. And the reality is we have to identify what burnout is to be able to identify it in our own lives. So if you've been running on empty, this is your reminder that peace and purpose are still possible. So let's dive into what is burnout. It's not just being fatigued. It's not just, waking up tired. It is emotional depletion. It is feeling disconnected from your purpose. And it is like this slow erosion of the spark within you. And you'll notice when you're in this burnout that even when you rest, you don't feel restored. Everything that you do starts to feel like a chore. And it'll often come with like cynicism or numbness or this sense of like, no matter how much you do, it's never enough. And now I've been here a couple times in my life, so let me dive into one particular story that really changed, kind of the trajectory of my life as I reconnected with the things that really mattered. And that was when I was in the classroom teaching. I loved my students. I loved coaching. I loved all the things that I was doing. I loved my kiddos and my husband. And after a while, I started feeling so like I was going through the motions, that I was disconnected and I was just fulfilling the duties that I had. I was, don't get me wrong, I think I was still being a great teacher and really focusing on giving my all to my students when I was there. And just like in volleyball, I felt like I was really trying to do the absolute best that I could. When it came to my kiddos, I felt like I was trying to do the absolute best that I could. When it came to my husband, I was trying to do the absolute best that I could. But that doesn't mean I was emotionally connected to any of it or felt purpose in it. And I kept going through these motions and I kept feeling like I was losing, I don't want to say a sense of me, but a sense of my purpose. And when you start to realize that you're in this state of burnout, you start to realize like, I don't like that. I don't want to stay here. So what are some warning signs that you're drifting into burnout? So feeling like you have to be productive. Now, some people that's natural. I grew up in the environment that I grew up, and I clung to this idea of like my worth was in my productivity. I've talked about this before, but I felt like I constantly had to be productive. It's like when you start overcommitting yourself and you're skipping meals just so you can get the work done and just to be productive. You're no longer doing things with a purpose, but you're doing things for the sake of doing the things, if that makes sense. So some signs you can look for are like waking up already exhausted or snapping at your loved ones. Now, we all can get irritated or frustrated or overwhelmed at times, and we're going to snap at our loved ones here and there. But it's when you see those repeated patterns that you're like, maybe there's more to this. Neglecting your self-care, that's one where you start to put yourself last because you're just going through the motions of getting the things done that need to get done because you need to be productive and you need to get the things done. Resenting things that you once loved, or even feeling detached from your why. That one right there is like, when it came to my classroom and my teaching, I felt so detached from my purpose in going into teaching. I went into teaching because I wanted to be that good role model for that student who didn't necessarily have it. I wanted to encourage my students. Students would come to me and they're like, I hate math. I'm not good at math. And it became this like, oh, I'm going to change this. I'm going to make you believe in yourself. And when I realized I was kind of in this burnout stage, I was so disconnected from that why. I was doing the job to get the job done. So the first thing that really needs to happen is you need to recognize that you're in the burnout or you're headed toward burnout. And then you need to reconnect with that why and find clarity in the things that you do. And sometimes this actually takes, you have to break these down into separate sections. Like my job. What is my why and what is my purpose in my job? When it comes to my kids, what is my why and what is my purpose in my kids? My purpose isn't just to cook dinner and do their laundry and provide for them. My purpose is to be emotionally connected with them, supportive, present. And when you start to identify your purpose and your why when it comes to the different areas of your life, you start to gently get guided back home. Gently get guided back to what truly matters, what truly fuels you. You can ask yourself, what would I choose if I wasn't trying to prove something? Would I choose to skip that meal with my family and get the job done? Or would I choose to stop, pause, and go have that meal with your family? When you ask yourself that question, or when you ask yourself, what truly fuels me, or who am I becoming, it helps you realign and remember what you're really called for. So small balances or small practices to restore that balance. If you've been listening to me for a while, you should probably know I use the word balance and you're like, what? Yeah, I don't really like the word balance. I like the word harmony. I want to find harmony in things that I do. Sometimes I'm going to have to give more in one area than the other, and that's okay. It's not a balance. It doesn't have to be perfectly even. It's like, hey, in this moment, in this period, the harmony is actually this. I'm going to give a little bit more here, and it's going to weigh a little bit more than this is. And that's okay, because sometimes it's going to go the other way. And that's, to me, really important. So a quick fix is to do some breathing techniques. Do some breathing breaks even, or what is the word I'm thinking of? Mind resets. Go for a walk in nature. Do a little journaling. I really like the question for me, the really one that helps restore that harmony quick for me is, who am I becoming? And what would I choose if I wasn't trying to prove something? Those two right there, having those handy, having those even on a Post-it note on your computer or on your screensaver. Ask yourself those questions and you will really quickly realize where the purpose is and what you should really be doing. And then we have to work from shifting from performance and productivity to presence, because burnout thrives. It thrives when you're performing. It thrives in you being productive. But there is no worth tied to your output. I'm going to repeat that for all of you who are like me. There is no worth in your output. We often end up in these burnout stages because we've told ourselves that my worth is in what I produce. And then I'm stuck in this cycle of wanting to produce instead of stopping, going back to my purpose, going back to my why. And that healing shift of presence over production or presence over perfection can really help us go back to living a purposeful and joyful life. It gets us out of the burnout and that cycle of just producing, or completing the things that we need to complete for the sake of completing the things that we need to complete. There's this whole episode that I really want to do about just doing whatever it is you do with intention. Because we go day to day, and I am guilty of this, because I'm not telling you this because I'm perfect at this. Not at all. I'm telling you this because these are reminders I have been reminding myself and teaching myself and learning myself. But we go through all of the motions. We go through all of the progress and all of the productivity. And in it, did you slow down enough to be intentional in the activities that you were doing? I had to create a spreadsheet, put a whole lot of data and a whole lot of information on the thing. And for me, I just needed to get that task done. So I'm not saying in every little task, go, what is my intention? What is my purpose in this task? But it did help when I was like, you know what? I'm putting together this spreadsheet, which is going to bring clarity to other people. And so as I'm doing this, let me slow down enough and be intentional enough to make sure I'm not just doing the task for doing the task, but it brought me joy to know that the information I was putting on here was going to bring clarity to other people in their role. So thinking about your intention in things can really help. I want to talk about the role that joy has in healing you from burnout. You know, my podcast is not called The Joy Perspective just because I like the word joy. And yes, I named my dog Joy. But it's because joy is a healing force for so many things, for anxiety, for anger, for frustration, for burnout. Burnout tends to dim your joy, but reintroducing things that bring you joy, like I talked about going on a nature walk, or listening to music, or playing a card game with your kids, or laughing at some jokes, that joy sparks so much inside of you. It sparks happiness. It sparks burnout to go away. Does that make sense? But it starts to bring back purpose to your life. So joy reminds you that you are not what you produce. It's not always through the hustle that brings, I shouldn't say it's not always through the hustle that brings joy. Joy is what brings joy. You don't have to hustle to find joy. So when we say that hustle isn't what brings joy, there is some work we have to do after being in burnout and recognizing that we're in burnout. And that is to create habits and rhythm that will realign you with your core purpose. So that includes, coming up with a schedule or a flow for you. Is that getting up in the morning and going for a walk? Is that sitting down right before bed? I love this one, you guys. One of my best tips, I think, is right before you go to bed, set your intentions for the next day. Write down 3 things you want to be intentional with. And I don't mean always do the dishes, do the kids' laundry, and clear all my work emails. I mean things, setting the intention for the day of like, connect with my kids and play 2 board games. That is, I could even go even further into the connecting, but being intentional in all aspects of your life, not just a to-do list, but what do you intentionally want to do? I want to play some board games with my kids because I love laughing with them and connecting with them. Through these board games, we also have conversations. My kid asks some of the funniest questions. I'm like, where do you get these questions from? I love it. But when I set those intentions, then when I go into those tasks the next day, it's not just doing a board game with my kids because it's on my to-do list. I have intentionality in it. I have connectedness as my purpose in it. So you're going to want to create some schedules or rhythm or flow for you that will start to incorporate the things that spark you, that bring you the joy. And then you have to let go of the guilt that comes when we rest. I'm so guilty of this. It is so hard for me to rest because I'm like, well, I could be doing this instead, and I could be doing that instead. And the truth is, our body and our mind and our soul needs the rest. because I'm going to take this clip right here and I'm going to clip it and I'm going to put it on my phone and watch it every morning. So I remind myself that my soul, my body, my mind needs the rest. It doesn't make you lazy. It doesn't make you, what is the word, complacent. It's giving your body the space and the time to recuperate. And to be honest, if you've ever noticed after a good night rest, you're so much more productive the next day. After a good 20-minute nap, you're so much more productive for the next hour. And that's because our body needs that rest. And when you notice you're in burnout, you need that rest even more. Or at least you need to be more intentional in that rest. The last thing that I kind of want to wrap up with is the idea that peace isn't earned. It's chosen. It's chosen. So you have the option and the choice to choose to continue to go down this burnout route, or to recognize it, to see it what it is, and then make the choices and the decisions to be purposeful and mindful and intentional in the routines and the flow that we create. Peace is chosen. It's not earned. So if and when you recognize that you're in burnout, I'm going to give you a couple things. I think you should tell someone, hey, I'm going to be working on being more intentional, recognizing that I'm in burnout, reconnecting with my purpose and my why. And that can be hard. Like, I don't have these normal conversations on the day-to-day of like, hey, honey, let me tell you what my purpose and why are in this. But we also need accountability. We need somebody to share these things with. We need somebody to have those conversations with, whether it's a friend, a parent, a relative, a spouse. Find someone to have those conversations with. Why is it that I do my job? In fact, I think after this, I might go text my boss and share that with her. Because that's important for the people that are around you and support you to know your purpose and your why. On top of finding that accountability person, I want you to choose peace. I want us to stop glorifying productivity. Productivity can be a good thing. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying productivity makes you bad. But when it's your priority, or when it's the only driving force for you, it becomes dangerous, very dangerous. I know. Hi, my name's Lauren. Guilty. And then I want you to choose the joy that lives within you and find the joy in your everyday. Thank you for joining me today on my Shift Your Mindset and find a little bit more joy in your life. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe so you never miss one. And don't forget to follow me on Instagram at Meet Lauren Valdez for more inspiration and updates. I'd love to hear your thoughts and connect with you. Until next time, keep shifting your perspective and finding your joy.